Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Nats at Night. This is episode 3, and I am your host, Trey. And tonight we have some stuff to get into. And when I say stuff, it's kind of got a negative connotation. My goal with this series is to try and look for the positives for the most part in the Nationals baseball world. And for the most part, this is a positive episode. But sometimes you gotta, address what's going on and talk about something that's not so happy. But the first thing we'll do is we'll do a little Nats recap action from the past 2 weeks. When I last left you, I believe we were in the middle of the San Diego series, which ended up in an interesting fashion. But first, I promised this on Twitter because I messed up and forgot to include the stats last week, that I would include the stats this week and also some new graphic transitions. So here we go. Here comes the first one. Huh? What do we think? It's simple. I maybe can add a little bit more snazz to it, but I think it looks all right. So, yeah, hopefully you guys like the graphics. I'll be putting those on the transitions now. As I continue to make this series, I will always be looking to add stuff, but I don't want to get it too overproduced, if you know what I mean. This is supposed to be more of a chill show. So, anyways, let's talk about the Nats. They did finish that San Diego series with a loss, and that wasn't the beginning of the bullpen's woes. It started a little while back, but it was definitely the beginning of the end. Let's just say that. That last San Diego game, the Nats offense did it. They did enough, and the bullpen couldn't hold the lead. So that was a potential series win that slipped away, and then they headed to Kansas City, and it was going pretty smooth. And Mackenzie Gore gives you an excellent start coming into the 8th inning of Game 3, looking for the sweep, and bullpen blows it. And I know that they only scored 2 runs, so offense can take some blame there too, but they had a lead in the 8th and they couldn't hold it again. And then they head to LA. Didn't play particularly well until Game 3, but they did manage to sneak one from the Dodgers. But again, even in the game they won, the bullpen they tried to lose. they allowed the Dodgers to tie the game. Luckily, the Nats offense that day scored 10 runs. And then most recently, we got the Phillies and the first 2 games of the Diamondback series. The Phillies series, again, the bullpen tried to blow the first game, but the Nats held on, and then the bullpen did blow the second game, but again, the Nats didn't really hit, so both things weren't that great. And then, first game against the D-backs was looked great to start out. We get the Stone grand slam, and then again, pitchers just can't hold on to leads right now, and I'll get into a little bit more detail about that soon. But let's go ahead and get into our first topic, which is going to be, what is the first topic? But let's go ahead and get into our first topic, which is unfortunately a sad one. Steven Strasburg has been shut down indefinitely with nerve damage coming off of his thoracic outlet syndrome surgery. So, unfortunately, I just realized I didn't say what time it is like I'm supposed to. It's currently 1:43 a.m. Sorry to cut that off. Anyways, so unfortunately, Strauss we kind of knew at this point that he was probably done. But this just confirms it. This is just the worst outcome for everyone, really. I mean, I know Strauss is still getting paid and stuff, but there's no way he wanted to go out like this. He didn't want to be hurt for the rest of his career. So I'm not going to hold that against him. It sucks for the Nats because you're missing out on one of the best pitchers in your team's history, and he just can't pitch, and you still got to pay him. And so you're not getting anything from that contract, which is unfortunate. And so just everybody, and for Strauss personally, it's just you kind of just are hoping that he can live the rest of his life without pain. and at this point, it's not even pitching. It's just, rehabbing so that you can, play with your kids. It's a bad situation. There's no sugarcoating this one. But we can remember Strauss for what he did. He was an absolutely incredible pitcher in the history of the Nats. He's one of the greatest Nats pitchers ever, and he had one of the most unbelievable postseason runs in baseball history, really. Even in the years that he pitched where the Nationals didn't make it past the first round, he was good. But then that 2019 year was something even more special, and he got the. I'm at least happy that he was able to win a championship before all this nonsense started. At least he's got that. Now it's just kind of hoping that he can again stay healthy and live a normal, pain-free life. It's unfortunate, it's just this nerve damage won't go away, and I sincerely hope that he will be able to live happy and just. God, it sucks. It just sucks. It sucks. It just sucks. So anyways, let's move on to something that sucks a little less, which is the Nats offense right now. The Nationals offense is surging. They have been working great at bats. They've been hitting for a little bit more power even, and that's helped them score the 11th most runs in the past 30 days at 126, and they have the 7th best team WRC plus as a team at 112. A big part of that has been Lane Thomas and Jeimer Candelario continuing to hit well. Jeimer he's had a little bit of a slow week this last week, but either way, the last 30 days he's hitting for a 160 WRC plus, and he's played excellent defense. His defensive metrics continue to go up and up and up. He's top 10% in outs above average still, and so. Man, it's tough with these two guys, with Lane and Candy. It's a little less tough with Candelario. I think you have to trade him at this point. I was skeptical about whether or not the Nationals could get a decent prospect for him, but the way he's playing right now, yeah, he could potentially start the All-Star game in the National League. So at this point, I'm expecting him to fetch a decent prospect and for the Nats to move him. Which will suck because I've actually really enjoyed having him, and he seems like he's been a pretty good influence on the younger players. But this is why you signed him. You gotta do it. So we will thank you, Mr. Candelario, for your services, assuming he does get moved. Joey Meneses, he is starting to just to rack up the hits. Now the power is still lacking, and that's definitely a concern. But he has been hitting over 300, and hitting well enough to have about a 130 WRC plus in the last 30 days. So he's surging as well. Lane Thomas is still going, so I'm just hanging on for dear life, but the ride isn't stopping yet, so that's all I got. And Ruiz having a big series in LA. He's been hitting the ball really hard recently, barreling a lot of balls and still getting pretty unlucky, but he did hit 3 homers in that series. So that was big for him to, first of all, get some revenge on his old team, and second of all, finally get some of those barrels to leave the yard. Even in that series, he had other balls, that long fly balls that could have gone out and didn't, and it was just crazy. Yeah, his. I mean, I don't want to harp on it so much, but I might have to do a separate video about his luck because it's crazy. I'm not gonna say I've never seen this. So maybe I shouldn't yet, but if it continues at this path, this could be an extremely weird, bad luck season. But we'll have to wait and see. Still a lot of time left. Okay, let's talk about some bullpen replacements now. So if you are unaware, Andres Machado and Erasmo Ramirez have both been designated for assignment, and the 2 pitchers that took their place was Jordan Weems and Corey Abbott, and Jordan Weems pitched tonight and gave up a 2-run homer to Corbin Carroll. Then again, Corbin Carroll's really good, but still didn't look particularly comfortable out there, was leaving a lot of stuff over the middle of the plate. Corey Abbott did not pitch. So there's still some other pitchers right now that I think might be looking at a possible call-up for some other guys, depending on what happens, whether it be for Weems and Abbott eventually, being sent back down, or if it's for another pitcher that struggles, because, I mean, pretty much everybody is struggling, especially throwing strikes. So, actually, Mason Thompson had a good outing tonight, though. That was pretty cool. 10 pitches. Come on, man. Give me April Mason Thompson, except don't throw him 400 innings this time. There's a couple things. So, I actually had Weems on this list, but then he was called up, and then he was not so great tonight. So, I got two other guys that could be looking at potential call-ups in the near future. The first one you might not know, and I didn't really know him until doing some research for this video. Gerson Moreno. This is a guy who I believe was in the Rays system for a long time. Quick interjection here in post. I was actually incorrect. Gerson Moreno was drafted by the Tigers and was in their system for almost a decade before he finally decided to sign with a different franchise, and that franchise was the Nationals this past offseason. He has strikeout stuff. He's striking out over 10 batters per 9 innings right now in AAA Rochester, and he is only allowing 4.6 hits per 9 innings, which is extremely good, and 0.3 homers per 9 innings. Now, the caveat being, he walks over 5 batters per 9 innings, and that's not something the Nationals are really looking for right now, because every single guy has been walking people. But at this point, you might as well call him up and see what he's got. It seems like the stuff is really good, and he has a low whip. He's kept runners off base for the most part. The only way they're really getting on is via the walk. So that could be interesting to see if he could. I think he's a guy who could come up and actually be effective. The second guy I have here is Jose Ferrer. He's a lefty. He's a top 30 prospect, and he has a 3.48 ERA at AAA. But the base numbers are very misleading for him. He has struggled to put batters away. He has struggled to strike them out for the first time in his career. He's a quick mover, so he's struggling now, but he's a younger guy, so don't get too worried about this. But right now, he is struggling to keep batters off the bases. He has like a 1.7 whip almost. So he's managed to keep the runs off the board for the most part, but it's not looking like it's sustainable at this pace. Now, he's a dude that I actually do believe will improve and potentially this year get the call up. And I don't know if he'll necessarily be ready, but he'll probably get called up anyways, similar to how Jake Irvin has been called up and still doesn't look like he's quite ready yet, but I've liked some things from him. But Ferrer is a guy who I think in the future will be a very effective pitcher. I think that he's a guy who can be an extreme ground ball pitcher, and that's definitely something you'd like to have in the bullpen. A guy who'd come in maybe with runners on first and second, one out, get you that quick ground ball, double play, boom, out of the inning. I feel like that's going to be the kind of pitcher he ends up being for the Nats. But it won't be. It's still going to be at some time. I think he will get the call this year at some point. But even then, I think it'll probably be too soon. But regardless, let's move on to the final topic, our prospect showcase segment. And this is actually quickly turning into a segment I'm really excited about because it's making me look up guys that I haven't even looked up yet this year in the Nats system, guys that you wouldn't think about. But first, real quick, I will mention James Wood moves up to Double-A, has 2 homers and like 5 extra base hits in his first week there, so he's awesome and is definitely a candidate for a September call-up potential. That would be aggressive. That would be very, very aggressive, but I think that if you call him up and he looks like he can hang, drop him the long-term extension right then. This guy is not a guy you're gonna be able to extend in 2 years when he's already establishing himself in the majors. You got to get him early with that extension, and it's a risk. It's certainly a risk, but man, I mean, if there's one guy in the system or in the league that you would maybe do this right now, James Wood, in the minor leagues, I should say. So consider that. That's aggressive, very aggressive move, but I think it's one that they should consider if you want to lock this guy up for a while. Anyways, my actual prospect that I want to talk about is Mr. Paul Witt. This is a guy who I had never heard of before this, for 2 weeks ago. The Nats player development Twitter tweeted a video of him, and I was like, okay, Paul Witt, never heard of him. Looked him up. Instant confusion, right? Okay, so I looked the guy up. He's 25 and he's in A-ball. So that's automatically a red flag. You're like, oh man, well, he's doing good, but he's playing against 20-year-olds, 21, 22-year-olds, guys just out of college, guys who are just out of high school even. So that's when you're a lot older than your competition, that's not necessarily a good thing. So I wanted to see what was the deal. Why was he not in like Double A or something? So basically, I tried to piece it together. There's not a whole lot of info about this player because, first of all, he was an undrafted player. So an undrafted player in the national system doing good at any point in time is rare. So that caught me off guard. I was literally looking. I was like, when did this guy get drafted? What's going on here? Undrafted. And the reason being was because he got COVID screwed, basically, is what happened. He went to VCU, and right as he found himself as a player, as a hitter, COVID shortened his senior season, and that was that. And so he elected to go ahead and sign as an undrafted player. I think that, according to one article I found, I'll try to find it again, so I might be talking out of my ass, but I'm pretty sure I read this, that he could have been eligible for another year of school because of the way the COVID NCAA eligibility thing happened. They gave all the student athletes another year. But he was signed, so he decided to do that, and he instantly struggled very badly in 2021. They put him on the development list, which made me think that, that the development list is this weird thing in the minors right now that has been around since COVID, because it was just like a way to stash players without having to say they're injured, so that you could, if you had to bring a guy out immediately off that list, you could put him on your roster because of the way COVID was forcing teams to make quick roster decisions. So they kept it around, and it's used for a lot of different things. But basically, you can hold on to a player and not play him for a while. That's essentially what it seems to me like. That's kind of how it works. So you can like put a guy on there and let him work on stuff. So maybe that's what they did. I couldn't find exact info on this, and I'm starting to ramble now, so I'll try to get to the point. But he also, so he went to Fredericksburg in 21, and also Wilmington, and struggled really bad. 22, he comes back and he starts in the FCL, which is was rookie ball, in June of 22. So that makes me think he was potentially hurt and had to rehab there, because he played there for a little while, moved up to Fredericksburg and played like 6 games. They bumped him right up to A+, and A+, he finished the season out. He played like 40 games and finished the season hitting pretty well in A+. And then this year they moved him back down to Fredericksburg, I believe, because James Wood moved to... Well, no, that wouldn't make sense because he's an infielder. Anyways, he moved back down to Fredericksburg as a 25-year-old who just hit kind of decent. It's very weird. I don't know what they're doing with him, but he's hitting well, and I think that, freaking bump him up, give him a shot. I mean, we're looking for anything at this point, and this is probably not a guy who ends up on the team at any point. But I just wanted to, find a dude who's doing well. There's other guys that are doing well that are under the radar, but this is definitely an interesting case. It's just that he's 25 in A-ball, and I don't understand what they're doing with him. It's very bizarre. So we'll see. Maybe we'll see Paul Witt go up to Double A soon or something like that, and get a legit shot. Because if you're 25, this isn't his fault. They got to move him up. They have to move. He has the highest slugging percentage on the Fred Nats, and that's not a pushover team right now. They're all right. So I think you gotta move them up. So let's see what happens there. But interesting prospect stuff. Let me know if you like that, or if you want me to talk about prospects that are more important. But this guy's like he's not ranked or anything. He's just a guy that was doing well in the system. Anyways, that's going to end the video. I only had those 4 topics tonight because it's not looking so good in Nationals land right now, so I didn't want to get too deep into the negativity stuff, because I definitely can go on a rambling rant And if you follow me on Twitter, then you've seen those. Anyways, I'm going to stop wasting your time. Enjoy your evening or whenever you're watching this, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.